Faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky, it's a bird brain, it's a plane, it's iWalter. Yes, it's iWalter, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. iWalter, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend ears with his annoying voice, and who disguised as Walter Interrunti, mild-mannered janitor for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, nonsense, and the American way. And now, another exciting episode in the adventures of iWalter.
Hey everyone, this is Walter from iWalter. I am going to do a show tonight. I already named it. It's going to be called WaterGate. If you, most younger people wouldn't understand the joke in that. And there's a reason I'm calling it WaterGate. It's just because of, you don't know. The situation that happened in my old job. I feel like the whole thing was a scandal and a setup just to get rid of me because the place that I used to work, they've been trying to get rid of me for a very long time with no success. I mean, it's for those who are like close to my age and understand this. There was Peter Sellers who used to play the Pink Panther back in the 70s. And by the way, today is Saturday night. I just love that. It's Saturday night at 11:23 on October 19th, which means it's only like 12 days away until Halloween. It's hard to believe that. So the thing I never thought of before, and it came up in my mind, if you think about it, Saturday Night Live doesn't come on until 11:30, so it's about 30 minutes. Actually, I mean, these things are recorded ahead of time. That's the name of a show. But if you really want to break it down or, look into it, it's really Sunday morning when Saturday Night Live is on, so it's kind of dumb, but I don't know. Well, most of your shows that are a little bit more, I like to say, adulterated with the humor, comedy, skit shows, they're generally on after midnight, so technically it's the next morning, so, why not call it Sunday morning? Live from New York, it's Sunday morning. I know, I'm nitpicking, but I have a friend that does that to me, so I just had to kind of put that in there. Now, I turned the volume up a little louder, so I hope this works out okay. I hope it doesn't make it sound a little bit more distorted. And plus, I'm trying to keep an eye on the levels, but at the same time, I'm trying to focus on stories in front of me. Now, it's funny, I should not do this because it's a distraction for me, but right now, at this time, they're showing the old Buck Rogers, not like original Buck Rogers, but the ones with Gil Gerard and Aaron Gray. And I had the biggest crush on Aaron Gray, and still do, even though she looks much older. That I remember one time, I forget where I saw this interview. She was talking about the ins and out of working on Buck Rogers and also Silver Spoon. Now, she had a problem with the little kid who, became a teenager during the programming of Silver Spoons, where the guy actually, what guy did and what kid did not, unless they were, I hate to say this, if they were gay. Aaron Gray was, like, incredibly hot, so everybody had a crush on her, and mainly from Buck Rogers, because they had her clothes that were like equivalent to the women nowadays wearing a Lycra spandex. Back then it wasn't. It was like a material. I remember her saying in an interview she could not breathe in there because it was so tight. It was like disco pants, but it was very shiny and very tight. So I remember, I think, Matt, you said this tonight about somebody referring to some woman you've seen that had either a heart-shaped butt, or I've heard it from Todd, he always calls it a pear-shaped butt, the perfect butt on a woman. Well, that was Aaron Gray. So once in a while, they would kind of, not using the word, they would tease men by having her walk by the screen in these tight disco spandexy looking pants. And I remember when I was a kid, I would record that stuff on VHS just to go back later on and check it out. Now, the ridiculous thing is I think it was like a year ago, they released it and somebody said, oh, it was a great box set. You could buy this flimsy box set on Blu-ray of the whole series of Buck Rogers. But even though I have that, I've never cracked it open. It's still sealed, I think. And it's like, I wait until it comes on TV. I don't know if it's a nostalgic thing with that, where you want to catch Erin Gray walking. I mean, her pants were so tight in her tops, and she had like small breasts. But they were so tight, like when she walked, it looked like her pants were ready to pop off. And I know she complained about that almost. Not like in a bad way. She kind of joked about it, but she said, yeah, there was a couple times she almost passed out. She couldn't walk in the pants. They were so freaking tight. So, bottom line, in talking about distractions, and I'm distracting myself from what the topic was supposed to be tonight. Because basically, before I go any further, real quick, and then I will go back, because I'm going to jump back to one other thing I wanted to mention before. WaterGate. I did pull up, and I tried to do some research so I had a little bit of a clearer view that wasn't tarnished or, one-sided on the opinion on what happened. But WaterGate, which is the name of the proper one, was something that happened down in D.C. against the Nixon administration, and I believe it was either before, I think Matt told me it was before Nixon's re-election, because he did win by a landslide. So that whole thing is called the WaterGate scandal. I'm going to go back to that in a minute because I don't want to start something and then have to go back to what I was talking about before, which I didn't finish. So I was talking about Erin Gray because I had a crush on her, and she's on right now. And they did one of those pair butt shots of her walking that you see in her butt, and was like, yeah, you know what, this show won't get started until 6 a.m. now. And I won't elaborate on that because the show's only I think 45 minutes. So the rest you can kind of figure out on your own. So anyway, another distraction tonight is you know what? One thing that doesn't change is sexy women over the decades, even the centuries, pretty much. So tonight I was watching Sanguli, and he's been playing all these mummy movies, for Halloween, which again is 12 days away. Why not Dracula? I don't know, because every year he does something different. I mean, he basically shows horror movies from all genres, but this year he's just been showing mummy movies for the month of October. So he was showing this movie, because he's showing all the mummy movies, the Hollywood ones, I believe. I don't think he shows the ones from Hammer, because there's a couple of those too. Maybe he did, I just can't remember. So anyway, he's showing one called The Mummy's Hand, and I remember, I think I actually owned these, because at one point I just, you can go to Walmart right now. Every year around October, you can go into Walmart and you can get, the classic horror movies of any sort. They don't have to be Hollywood movies from the 50s and 60s. I do like those, though. But they mark them down drastically low. You can buy the DVDs. You really don't need a Blu-ray. It would be nice, but sometimes it's just kind of a waste of money, give or take. But you can get them at Walmart for $5. Normally they're 10 and 20 because those movies have copyrights on there, so the price is generally pretty high. But this is the only time of year. It's like Christmas for me, because I have tubs full of old movies, which I bury now. No puns intended. Well, maybe that is not a pun, but I bury them in boxes and I forget about them. But it's this is the time of year I should be pulling them out and watching them again. For instance, I bought a double feature of Dracula where they shot it at the same studio for Hollywood, once with Bela Lugosi, and then they shot another version in Spanish with different actors, and it was the same set, but it was all shot with Spanish actors. I'm not even joking. Or I think Mexico. But you kind of get the idea of what they did. And I thought, like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Because they actually showed it one year I was off for Halloween a couple years ago. Because I usually take off every Halloween. It's going to be the first one I've worked in a long time, which really upsets me. But yeah, they showed a double feature. I forget who does it, TNC or something. They put it out in the movie theaters, and they show old classic movies. I forget what they call that. So they showed one year. They showed Bela Lugosi. It was a double feature, and then they showed right afterwards the same movie again, but it was shot with different actors. And again, they did not speak English, and it was kind of cool. It was actually really cool because even though it was shot on the same set, it was done slightly differently because not only did they have different actors, they actually had, I believe, just a different producer or director. And what they did is they just used the same set, though. So instead of like doing voiceovers like they've done over, past that time, they, anymore, they just voice over the actors' voices with other actors, and it looks horrible. They simply shot the same exact film twice, which was really a good idea. And you can watch both, and you can get something completely different from both versions because the sets are all the same. The script was pretty much the same premise, but it was from a different country, so shot on the same studio set, though. That was a really cool idea. So those I got. That was like an example. So anyway, why am I mentioning all this stuff? Because I'm like really deterred now from what I should be talking about, which I apologize, which is about this WaterGate thing, or WaterGate. So I apologize about that. And I've just spent 12 minutes on that subject alone about movies, old classic movies, and hot-looking women from the ages. Well, at least from this past century, not this century, because we're actually in the 21st century. So it'd be the 20th century. So anyway, I'm watching this movie tonight on Singula. I'm going to try to get this rounded up, this segment. And it's a movie called The Mummy's Hand from 1940. And there's this actress on there. She's like incredibly hot. Singoli talks about it. He shows some sexy pictures of her from back in the 40s and stuff she did. And her name looks like Peggy Moran. I almost want to say moron, but it's Moran, I believe, because it's Moran. And she was born in 1918, and she passed away in 2002. So she was like 84 or something. But he showed so many shots, like, yeah, I got to look these up because she looked like really hot. Even in those bathing suits from like the 30s and 40s where a woman could not show butt cheeks. So they put like almost like it looked like for a bathing suit, it looked like almost like a tight skirt. And on her, normally it doesn't look that good, but on her, it looked really hot, really sexy. So I was like, wow, you know what? It's just like the key ingredients that has not changed over the years. What do? You show women's now, like nowadays, that's inappropriate because you have these different women that are complain that, that's sexist. Well, I hate to say this, but from the beginning of film, what did you always do in films? You had hot, incredible-looking women, and I mean hot-looking women. So that has not changed. It's just people's attitudes from the Democrat Party, I hate to say this, who brainwash people to think like, change their mind frame and think like, oh, that's treating women like pieces of meat. Well, no, it was showing women... I hate to say it, sex is power, and, that was the sex appeal women had. They actually had, in my opinion, they had more control because they were the ones making the ticket sales back in the 20s, the 30s, and before that, and obviously after. So that hasn't changed. I mean, every Hollywood film had put sexy women in, and you're talking a 1940s film. Now, back in the day, like I said, she was like really hot, really incredible looking. Now, when she passed away, and that's one thing that made me think too, she looked like, I don't mean this in a mean way, and it happens to everyone. She looked like an old prune. And I don't mean that. It sounds very offensive, and I don't mean it that way. Trust me. And I am going to get on to this subject matter of WaterGate. I don't know much about it, so it's going to be like very brief. It's not going to be 15, 20-minute segment. It'd probably be like 3-second segment with me. Well, maybe not, too. Because you are talking about iWalter, and, I don't get to the point. So the one thing that came to mind, it reminded me of one of my favorite things, is Doctor Who. And it's like, wow, I wish this could happen in real life. But there's this episode called The Leisure Hive, I believe. The Leisure Hive, something like that. Leisure. Both are probably incredibly wrong on the way I just pronounced them. But the whole thing was, it was this alien race that the Doctor and Romana come past. And he was like wondering, like, wow, all these people look really young, like they don't age. They weren't like, they were humanoid, but they looked like kind of weird looking aliens on this episode. And what happened though is they aged all at one time. So, and it was like, wow, this would be great if they could actually do this, if this could actually happen, where you could live your whole entire life, looking like you're in your 20s, but you're actually 90. And then when death has to happen, your age process will just happen in a matter of minutes and it's over. So that I'm doing a really bad, description of what happened in the episode, but you probably hopefully get an idea what I'm saying. And that's kind of what happened in this particular episode of Doctor Who. And it was back with Tom Baker and Lola Ward. So, yeah, it was like, yeah, because you see some of these actresses when they're young, and it's like, and that actually, unfortunately, that happened to Erin Gray, too. Apparently, she did some appearance on some TV show, science fiction show, and I did not recognize her, and it didn't give me the same vibe I did a few years ago when I saw her in person, where she still looked really attractive. I saw her a few years ago. I went to a convention, honestly, just to see Erin Gray, not realizing she was going to come down further towards Philadelphia. So I went, I believe, up to New York just to see her. And she aged a bit, but you could tell it was still Erin Gray. And I still had those, similar emotions I did when I was younger, not quite as strong because the way she changed. But she was still kind of very attractive. And now when you see her, it's like, yeah, she looks definitely like somebody's great-grandmother. She's not that attractive. So that's what made me think of, like, that episode of Doctor Who where people basically stayed young all the way up until when they're ready to die. And they were like this alien race that lived off of something that was comparable to like a beehive. And it was an interesting episode, but it was like, yeah, if that was the case, I think people would be, men more so, because women have a timeline. Men would be procreating with, having sex with women that were 90 years old up to the point they would die, because they just figured, hey, they still look really young and hot and sexy. They're not getting all pruned up. I mean, that's horrible to say, so I apologize. I watch these old movies, and it's like, wow, I don't want to know what these people look like, these women look like now, because I wouldn't get the same arousal that I would when I watch these old movies and old TV shows like Erin Gray's on Buck Rogers and these old movies. Because I've seen a couple old movies like with actresses, like black and whites, even like Twilight Zone. There's one episode, the one where the guy goes, I know I'm going off on this thing on this now. I should just change the name of the episode, but I won't. I'll just make it a longer episode. Where this guy ends up, he's putting on a planet by himself, like a moon or something, for punishment, like prisons were taken away. So what they did is if you were convicted of a crime, you were put on another planet. So he was given as a companion secretly, one of the people who had shipped him off to this moon or whatever like that. This guy, the actor, the character in this Twilight Zone, they gave him a companion, a female companion, but it was an android, a robot. And the actress, I forget who it was, she was really hot back when that episode was made. And I've seen her in many other things. I apologize. It wasn't part of my story, so I'm not going to pull it up. And at the very end, he gets pardoned. He gets to go back to Earth. And they say, you can only bring as much as you can carry, but you can't bring anything because we're already overweighted on the ship to go back home. So he has to leave the woman behind, and he doesn't want to because he ends up falling in love with her and forgets that she's an android. Knocks her over, and then he finds out that she was just an android. He kind of got soaked up on the incredible, hot-looking girl that was actually only just an android. So, the thing is, though, there's two things you could take away from that. Like, yeah, men are into sex appeal and hot-looking women. The other thing is you put hot-looking women in every movie and TV show. Now, all of a sudden, that's like a no-no because it's politically incorrect. And it's gotten even worse because now you have to worry about, or they're making these discussions about transgenders being in every TV show and movie. It's just gotten out of hand. So, anyway, my volume keeps on going down. So I hope people can hear me because I do have the volume turned up and I'm sitting next to the mic. I'll listen to the show maybe a little bit. I don't listen to my shows all the way through because honestly, I just don't like hearing my own voice. So, yeah, and it's kind of dipping the sound. So I'm going to try to adjust my mic, see if that helps. Hopefully it does. Yeah, because it sounds like the sound's getting low and I have it turned up. So anyway, go to back. I apologize. I just spent 2 minutes just talking about my mic. It was back in June 17th, 1972, where this whole thing with this WaterGate scandal came out against Nixon. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs. To me, personally, I just think the whole scandal thing is what's going on. And again, I could spend probably a whole week just talking about these WaterGate scandals. Because back in 72, that was a really big thing. I mean, there's been books, movies, everything made about that. So it's not exactly a small thing on Nixon. And he was a Republican. I never knew that back in the day. I didn't understand the difference between Republicans and Democrats either. But it seems awfully pretty much the same with what's going on with him now that is going on with Trump. And that's the thing I need to specify. Because, I've read somewhere, and I kind of cut and pasted to a friend. Maybe I could probably pull those up. Where the terminology they're using to try to get rid of Trump and constantly are trying to impeach him, the wording is identical. So that alone just kind of scares me, Okay, you keep on using the same words that you used for Nixon that eventually... Now, I don't understand that. They said he was impeached, but then I see that he did what he did was he resigned first. Now, one person who was truly impeached, no matter how you look at it, was Clinton. Now, you never hear anything about that. In fact, even after the impeachment trial not only went through with Clinton, and he did have over his head that he was impeached, you heard from people, that were followers of Clinton, oh, he's a great man. What he did was really cool. Not like directly, or, they actually, his popularity kind of went up because it was like he got impeached for lying under oath about having sex with a woman he claimed that he did not have, Monica Lewinsky, and he did. It's more like, well, yeah, he's telling a white lie in some ways. Because probably he didn't have sex with her, but what he did do is allow her to orally, put her mouth around his penis. So that was his reason for, I didn't have sex with her. Well, you did something sexual or allowed her to do sexual favors for you. In my book, that's lying. So he did get impeached for that. Now, Nixon, from what I understand, he resigned before the impeachment trials. They had enough to impeach him, from what I understand. But again, this is not what I wanted to get into either. He got impeached, or the impeachment trial would have went through if he did not resign, because they had enough evidence against him. Well, they're doing the same thing with Trump. I'm trying to look at what I cut and paste that was for Nixon. But they said, even in today's times, that Nixon won by a landslide. Like, he won by over 50% against who he was running against. So that's never heard of even today, even with like Reagan and Trump, who did win by a large scale. Don't get me wrong. Nixon actually, surpasses that still. So anyway, I did kind of cut and paste things to a friend. I didn't hear back. But one of the things were some of the accusations against Nixon were that he was tactics were those in the KKK, because I'm just kind of paraphrasing what it was written. So I'm quoting this from some article that I had posted or sent to two friends, and it was Nixon reelected in landslide November 7th, 1972. And then there was a charge that cut was comparison to Nixon with Adolf Hitler. Wow, that sounds really familiar. The accusations that are now going on with Trump are identical, and this happened about 50 years beforehand, are the same accusations were made against Nixon back in the day. Yeah, there was an article in Politico, and it says Nixon reelected in landslide November 7th, 1972. So I'm a little bit foggy what happened first. I think my friend Matt said the whole WaterGate scandal may have been, Matt, I may have, and I think I did misunderstand you, may have happened before the reelection, and people believe the reason he got reelected because the WaterGate scandal was about how the Republicans were eavesdropping, putting mics in the Democratic Party locale. And, they were, it's something on that line. You know what? I am the worst person to ask on how this all went down, because honestly, I have no clue, and I don't even want to get started, because my whole reason for this is not to talk about what happened to Nixon. That was far from what I wanted to do. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of an idea what happened. I'm not trying to justify, clarify, whatever you want to say. All I'm trying to do is, okay, I'm calling this WaterGate, WaterGate, instead of iWalter, I'm calling it WaterGate, simply because what happened to me is what's happening to Trump, which obviously they're kind of comparing to what happened to Nixon, because I heard this on Rush Limbaugh, and he was doing that comparison, not with me and Trump and Nixon, but I'm doing that, but it was between Trump and Nixon with the wordage and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to point out. So the thing is, it's truly obvious with Trump. Now, again, Nixon, I don't know. I was like 3 years old at the time, so I don't think I had a grasp on what was going on around me at that point. I know, Matt, I should have. I mean, you're probably like, you came out of the womb being, very understand of all this information, but unfortunately, even at the age of 10 and 12, I still did not have a grasp on things. So that being said, they were saying, like, I've heard now that, like, for people who can kind of see through all the the BS going on with Trump right now. They can clearly see that this is definitely somebody actually called into Rush and named it slander. And it's like, well, it can be slander, but just remember, slander means it is written information that is there to defame you, like to make you look like the guilty person. So slander is written, and I think Rush kind of gently corrected it to liable, because liability, or I should say not liability, but something that's liable is a form of slander, but it's not written, it's verbal. So if somebody says Walter is selling drugs and he's part of the mafia and the cartel, which are two different things, I know. I'm just using it as a example, and you know that's not true, and they say that, oh, Walter is part of a drug cartel, because I think that's more of a Spanish thing. That would be, and I don't know. I'm just using that because I don't know anything about that whole nonsense. Or the mafia, okay, because I'm Italian. And they say that's liable. Like if somebody is sworn in and they say, yeah, Walter's part of the mafia in Norristown, or a trooper, there was such a thing, that would be considered liable. If they do it in writing, if it's written out, then that's slander. So I worked with a guy. That's the only reason I knew about that word even years ago. It was a guy I worked with where he got wrongfully fired from the job he worked at. I think he worked at a 7-Eleven's or Wawa's for years. A guy named Doug that I used to know, who was a neighbor of mine when I lived in Horsham. And he got fired, and he said, well, it was slander. And I was like, what's slander? It's like, well, they were trying to defamate me. They were trying to incriminate me on things I never did. They lied about it. So it was like, it came into mind after I heard it on Rush Limbaugh the other day when he was comparing Nixon and the WaterGate scandal, because that's what it's called, with what's going on with Trump. Now, there is a lot of similarities, paradox that seems very closely being the same thing. I know, Matt, paradox is not the correct word, so thank you. But the point is, yeah, that was the same thing that happened to me at my old job. I had a boss, a director, who did not, like me, and this person came in as like the Trojan horse. Like they came in and they made friends with everyone I worked with, which included me, and they seemed very friendly and very open-minded and stuff. Well, after less than a year, I would say at least a couple dozen people had bid out of the job and where I was working, and they moved elsewhere. And they said directly it was because of this particular person, because they did not like them. They had no clue what they were doing, and they were just messing up so bad left and right. And it just got progressively worse, because I told this person when we were having issues where I worked in the building I worked in, that particular person did not want to hear it. And then I even, the work, got so hard because I had more work pushed on me, like extra work, that was initially inclined for 3 people to do on my shift. I was a second shift person. I work at a new job. I work second shift. And the job I have now, by the way, is very hard. But it would be comparing apples and oranges on how I get treated. Like before, I was treated like a piece of dog doo-doo, and now it's tough, and I got to take up with some nonsense. But it's not like the management doesn't listen to me the same way that the management at my old job didn't listen to me. It's comparing apples and oranges. I mean, yeah, people are human. You're not going to get along with people all the time, but these people at my old job were just ready to throw you under the bus, and that's what happened. Not by just this particular director, but multiple people at my old job. So that turned into a real nightmare, and they were trying everything truly to discriminate me, and trying to get me almost like if I was the president, a way to get me impeached. Well, how did they do that, Walter? Well, really simply, they tried to find me mentally incompetent. They had repeatedly told me to go to different psychiatrists. They tried to tell the psychiatrist, because I've heard this firsthand by the psychiatrist I was forced to go to. I had this guy who sat me down. He said, listen, I'm not the one who's telling you need to do all this stuff. I'm being told by the person at your job. It was a head nurse who told him what to do. And I went and confronted her about that, and she said, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not the one who's forcing you to get all this treatment done and get these tests that are rather expensive, because I had to get a test for a learning disability. The doctor told me straight out, it was a guy from Plymouth Meeting, a psychiatrist down in Plymouth Meeting, who closed the door, which he normally does, and he said, this is just between me and you, but hey, I'm not the one forcing all this stuff that you need to get all these specific tests done and be on this medication. It's not me. It's this nurse at the place I worked. I almost slipped and said where it was. So, bottom line is, yeah, that's equivalent with the president now and the president back in 72 had gone through, where they are I got the equivalent of the Democrats with the president who just don't like me and tried everything to desecrate me and just, tried different forms of defamation to make me look really bad. So, in a nutshell, it finally got to the point where the ball was in their court, and I had to go through this arbitration for over a year. And, it was a dog and pony show where I had a union that was supposed to protect me. A union lawyer was supposed to protect me. And they went through the motions for over a year. Over a year. And they already had their their decision made from the moment they let me go, the moment they terminated me. They found a reason to terminate me by what I felt was a setup. I mean, I basically walked into, a hypothetical mousetrap. I was set up, and it was definitely a setup, and it was a way that they could finally see if they could trap me, which it did work. I can't say too much, because even though I no longer work there, and I did say in the past, if I ever got fired from this job, I will mention everything that happened. But the problem is, the new job I work at, and this is why I want to clarify this right now, the new job I work at, they said, yeah, when you're off the clock or whatever happens to you, you're still under that oath of, the oath of, that you can't disclose certain information. So, say I worked at, I don't know, this is a really bad comparison, but a place like Banana Republic, and I quit there and I go to Old Navy, or no, because Old Navy is part of the same umbrella. I go to American Eagle, and I tell American Eagle, well, you know what? There's certain things that Banana Republic did that you guys could kind of cash in on if you knew about their secret way and the designers of the clothes, something like that. I mean, this is, again, it's really bad. Well, you're under a signed agreement during if you're you're working for whatever company and you leave that company to go to another company, that you still can't disclose certain information that could, jeopardize whatever product you're working on. I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that would be a little bit more clear to understand. Like a product like, I don't know, like a hair loss product. Like you want from one company that has patented a thing that will help you regrow your hair, but then you go to another company like, I know there was one that was mentioned, Bosley. And it's like, well, if I gave them this information, I could destroy that other company. Well, maybe that's not very clear, but the thing you're not allowed to do is discuss, trade secrets from one job to the next, even if it's like information on gossip, because you could seriously get repercussions. You could probably even get sued. So unfortunately, I can't clarify any more than that. So I will say this, though. The company I work for, because there's been a couple companies that I've seen on the news lately that they made massive layoffs. Now, one example for a massive layoff or a big layoff was, and I had to laugh at this one before I go any further, was with Target, because Target was forced, thanks to the Democrats, to raise their minimum wage to $15 an hour. And I have that one right up in front of me because I posted the stories I did want to talk about for once, at least most of it. And it said on that particular article now that Target has caved into the liberal fight for $15 an hour, and they claimed them or put them in as the $15 an hour mob. Employees are suffering, and it says what does it do for like the people that work there? Well, they laid a ton of them off because they can't afford to give people at a minimum wage job that was before under $10 an hour, now forced to pay each individual double what they paid them before, practically. So, yeah, it says that it said CNN, unfortunately, interviewed 23 current and former Target employees. That's not that many. What they do, though, in these cases is if they have to hire you at $15 an hour, if they can't lay you off, then what they do is they cut your hours back. So say you worked 40 hours a week, that at 40 hours may come down to like 15 or 20 just because these companies can't afford to pay that kind of money out. Or if they are forced to give you 40 hours a week plus benefits because you work 40 hours, the company is automatically has to give you insurance or offer it to you. They don't have to give it to you, but they have to offer it to you. So that's more cost to that company. So what ends up happening is what seems like a great idea, because it's not going to stop there. Eventually going to say, well, you know what, 15's not enough. We're going to have to pay these people $20 an hour. Well, you're hurting the economy, and not only you're hurting that, you're hurting the consumer. I don't care if it's a retail job, because in retail, I gave this example to my dad. Acme Markets, they're a union. I used to work at Acme Market as my first job when I was younger. That was like 30 years ago. And that was a union, and you got premium pay. You got paid really well. You got double time for Sundays and a supermarket. If you made it into the union, you got paid time and a half for Saturdays. It was in the union contract. Well, I hate to say it, I hate going to Walmart. So I think the other week I went to Acme, right down from where I live, and just because I didn't want to deal with the hassle at Walmart. It's just a horrible place anymore to go in and shop. So what would normally cost me at Walmart to buy, or even Giant, say I bought groceries and grocery products for like $30. It sounds like a bit exaggerated, but it's not far from the truth. It would cost me at Acme for the same products about $70, if not more. And why is it so much more? Because you got to pay that person's union dues. And what does the union do for the individual who's an employee at that place? Well, they try to get you the most money for on what you do as far as work. So, when some individuals are making only $7.50 an hour, $8 an hour, and you get into a unionized place like Acme, or there was another place that went out of business because they couldn't afford to pay the union wages. It was another supermarket, no longer exists, at least it was around Montco College. I can't remember the name of it. For those who don't know, it was called Montgomery County Community College. There was a supermarket down there that was unionized. And I was taking classes at the time. I was taking, and I used to eat at this mom and pop diner down from Montco College. And I was sitting there one time between classes, and all the fellow union brothers and sisters were in there and discussing that all of us lost our jobs because the company went out of business and got bought out by like ShopRite or something, which is non-union. So these people were used to making like $25, $30, $40, well, about $25 an hour. And they said, well, now that it's no longer the supermarket it was, I can't remember the name of it. Well, you guys can come back, but you're going to be paid about $10 less than you're used to making. And they thought that was ridiculous, and it was crazy. When I heard that, I was like, yeah, I feel bad for you guys. You're making like $25 an hour working in the grocery market, and they're asking you to take like $10 now? That's crazy. But now I can see why, because people ask for this stuff like, oh, I want to make $45 an hour to push a shopping cart, or $25 an hour to, take 3-hour lunch breaks and, do the minimum amount of work because I'm entitled to it. Well, I hate to tell you, no company is going to survive. And that's what's happening with these price wages, price increases that they're mandatorily pushing on companies to do. You're forcing companies to downsize the amount of people they have. And that's a problem, because one of the places I applied for a job, because I applied like at every retail store, GameStop, and then I looked into other places. Like one place I applied that was, a factory job, in my opinion, was someplace, Johnson & Johnson, which I just read a story on them. And it was right from the woman from HR. I told my dad this. The woman from HR, she had taken me to my interview with 2 different people. And she told me right out, she says, you know what, if you can find a job elsewhere, I would recommend that, because right now they're not going to hire you full time. They're going to hire you as a contractor. And she said, right now we just laid off about a third of our employees at Johnson & Johnson down in, it wasn't too far from where I went to college. It was down past Bluebell. And she said, right now, even my job, I am forced now to do the job, 3 different other departments' jobs, because all of those people are gone. They were laid off. So where is this going, Walter? Well, the thing is, you can ask for the moon, but it's going to come at a price. So meaning that you can ask for, like, I want $100 an hour to do whatever I want to do, and I want you to wait on me hand and foot. Well, guess what the company is going to do? One, they're going to tell you to take a hike, and if they don't do that and they're forced to, like, meet your demands, 2, what they're going to do is, we're going to give you your demands, but guess what? Your buddies over there are going to be out in the street because we can't afford to pay you $100 an hour while we have 3 or 4 people doing like hardly anything, and asking for all these really out of reach, demands that are just going to really hurt our profit. Like, we're not going to be able to survive. So I hope that kind of makes sense, because I've actually already spent like 20 minutes just on that thing with Target. But I mean, and the sad thing is, if this continues in this direction, we're as a country, we are gonna end up in another. I want to say, like, where one side of me wants to say, oh, it's going to be another civil war, but it's going to be worse than that. It's going to be the collapse of our economy. But people don't understand that. They just don't grasp the fact on that. And I would give you the sources from the old job I work, but that could lead to serious problems for me, so I can't. So anyway, yeah, this one woman, going back to that, I know I kind of went on a far reach from what I started. She was the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back with me. She was the one who had successfully got rid of me. Now, the thing was, after she did that, her position, she was removed from it because she was doing such a horrendous job of getting done what needed to be done. And she was a director. And at that point, most of the people who actually had a clue what they were doing as far as production work, they had already left the building and went to other jobs within where I worked. And in fact, some of them were drafted back, mandatorily drafted back. And the reason for that is because she made a complete disaster out of things. Now, the problem is, though, this is after she, tarnished my name and a couple other supervisors and management underneath for her. Basically, like the Democrats are doing to Trump, had, spread the what do you call it? The defaming words against me, and made them stick, saying stuff that was not true. And I know, Matt, you're going to ask me, well, can you give examples? Well, I can't give examples online because then that will just kind of expose where I work. To give specifics is to disclose information that could cause repercussions and actually cause me to get a lawsuit against me with the company. So I hope you understand that. I mean, that's going directly towards Matt, because you'll probably say, well, that couldn't happen. Why would they just go after me? Well, I would hope not, but you know what? You never know. You never know. So there's a couple other stories I wanted to kind of cover, but I'm going to kind of gloss over them at this point. Last night, I'll tell you, that is definitely one thing that's very nice where I work. There was at least, I have to thank my guest from last week, Paul, because he was the one who set this up. So, Paul, thank you. But this is the second time he successfully did this. Good man, Paul. He set up a thing that down the road at a bar, I don't drink, that he set up to get people to come together and, kind of like hang out after work, people we worked with at the job I work now and that, had moved on, and then some other people. And he actually had successfully got like about 30 people together. That's like really good. So, Paul, thank you for that. But 3 of the guys, went up and did karaoke and stuff. Paul, Paul didn't sing, but he plays harmonica, and he was incredible. Because I have a friend, my friend Matt. He's usually really hard on everybody, and I sent him a little short video segment I shot of Paul playing the harmonica, and he was really good. My friend Matt said, yeah, that guy was, let me see what Matt wrote. Oh, yeah, my friend Matt wrote, blues harp was awesome. So my Paul was playing the blues on a harmonica, And Matt, generally, you never have anything good to say about anyone because you're pretty harsh on everyone, including yourself. But you even thought it was really good. So, Paul, I want to give you a nudge out there, whatever you call it, a call out, because apparently people seem to like that. Paul last week called out on a couple of people we work with. So another person that I actually now posted on YouTube was this guy Dan. He's like a floor manager now, young guy, good looking guy, very talented. Dan, I don't know your last name, but he kind of blew everybody's socks off because he's like, at this point I was joking with the other guys and I said, there's got to be something this man can't do. He's only in his early 20s. To me, he's like a kid. This guy Dan is very smart, and he's he's got many talents. I mean, he wrestles, he does karate, and numerous other things. He's even good with the stock market, which I wish I had a bit of a better grasp on, the money market. I have invested in 2 companies now for a 401k, and the one I have now at my new job is just starting to take off. It's starting to make money really quickly. The other one already had made some money, but I had to remove some of it just to live off of. So the guy Dan last night, everybody said, "Oh, Dan, go up there and sing." So he had taken, I believe it was a Billy Joel song. I said his name wrong. I'm bad with everybody's names. And I recorded. I was like, yeah, I got to hear this guy Dan sing. And it was like, he wasn't bad. He was actually pretty damn good because singing is not that easy. You either have the knack to do it or you don't. And if you don't and you really want to sing, you got to work at it really hard. But, yeah, Dan, again, going to give you a nudge out there, too, because I'm coming up on an hour, and you did an excellent job. One of our coworkers, Joe, he got inebriated. What do you call it, inebriated? He got drunk on wine because he doesn't drink alcohol otherwise, meaning like hard liquor or beer, but he does like his wine, this guy Joe. And it was kind of funny. Joe got like pretty heavily intoxicated. So, Joe, if you would hear this, I hope you made it home safely because I feel bad because you drove yourself home too, and I can tell you were a little on the tipsy side. But you know what they always say about alcohol, I believe, because I've never drank. Alcohol is also like a truth serum where things you wouldn't expose or admit to when you're sober because your super ego is intact, that wall is up, is taken down once you're drunk or, a little tipsy. So Joe was at that point last night. Poor Joe. I love you. But you're being like, you're under the truth serum, and you said, yeah, Dan is really talented in many ways, and he actually was right on key with his notes that he was singing from the Billy Joel song. And I would say, yeah, he was really good. I'll leave it at that. Now, there was a third person, which it's like, oh, no. And you know what? 2 of the guys, Paul and this guy named Jacob, they're moving to a different location to work, so I'm kind of going to miss you guys because they're fun to talk to. Now, this guy, Jacob, he went up and sang, but he told me specifically, this is not going to go anywhere. So I'm not going to mention anything on his singing because I am going to respect what Jacob said. He told me, I don't want this. This is only going to go as far as Paul, and I respect that. So any copies I have is just between me, Jacob, who sang last night, and he sang a Weezer song, and Paul, and I respect that. That's as far as it's going to go. I'm not going to say anything. But I will say this much, Jacob, that I have a lot of respect for you because you had the courage to go in front of a bunch of people, and it's even worse It's worse when you're in front of people that you know. Trust me. Because I'll just be upfront with you. If that was me, and I was told, like, oh, you need to sing in front of a bunch of people, I would have had my pants completely saturated because I would have pissed myself because I don't have that kind of courage. I don't know if it was liquid courage, I guess, that did he drink? Because he did not sound drunk. So I believe that he did not drink. And if he did, he didn't drink that much because he sounded the way he does when I know him, Jacob. But you definitely, I have to tip my hat and also, Jacob, put you on a pedestal for the simple reason is because, it is not easy to get in front of people and sing it. Because me, I would be just so embarrassed. I probably, for me, I would have passed out. And the same thing goes out to Dan and also to who else sang or didn't sing but went up on stage is Paul, because this is the total truth. I remember like I was in grade school and for some reason they have a ceremony like when you're in grade school when you go from grade school to like first grade, because my parents put me in this like preschool thing, which actually made it that when I graduated from high school, I was like 19. Most people graduate at 17. So anyway, I remember this for some reason like it was yesterday. And this is what I'm trying to get at with Jacob, Dan, and Paul, where I was supposed to go up and get some type of like, I'm a little kid. I don't know what, 12 years old. And I just graduated from grade school. They have some type of ceremony. You're supposed to go on stage. And I got so nervous that I actually ran off stage crying. I mean, I'm a little kid. I ran off stage crying because I was so nervous because I seen like a crowd of people that I couldn't do it. And I mean, I kind of went through similar things. I've always had stage fright. Not like that, like I did when I was a little kid. But, when you have to go up for graduation ceremony, I get nervous. When you have to go up, because I graduated with my associate's degree, I had to go through that. And my BA, and it was the same thing. And I get really nervous. In fact, here's another scenario to put into that perspective. I couldn't. I was like not best man, but I was one of the groom. What do you call it? The grooms. I forget what you call that. Not the best man, but there's a group of guys that go or asked, "Hey, can you stand on my side when I get married?" I forget what that's called, so I apologize. But it was my friend Rich Minjin, and he asked me, like, he couldn't get, like, I think he had three guys that were, I'm just going to say the word best man, because I can't remember what it's called. And he couldn't get, like, the third person to go through, so, because the guy couldn't make it, so then Rich asked me, this was years ago when he got married, Rich asked me, well, Walt, can you do it for me? And I said, sure. Well, when that day came for his wedding, they were afraid, like Rich, like he didn't say anything until after after he got married. He said, I just want to let everybody know I was so nervous and they were afraid I was going to take off before the wedding that we already had, said our, what do you call it? We said our vows. We're already married before the viewing. So, that being said, like, I didn't know that. He didn't tell anyone until after the wedding. Nobody knew this besides him and his wife, Bethany. So that being said, by the way, it kind of was funny, just in case Rich would have gotten even just to retell his vows, if he would have got nervous and, got stage fright on getting married, they brought him, he didn't take any, but they brought him just in case some Valium or something, to calm his nerves down. Well, they, to this day, because it's been many years since Rich has gotten married, it's at least like 15 years. Rich keeps on bringing up to me that, well, you know what? When do you remember when I was getting married that they were going to give, they had, what do you call it, Valium or whatever, something to calm you down for me, so I wouldn't get upset and, basically take off before the wedding. But we end up giving it to me because I was so nervous. And I was a mess. And he said, Walter, after you had taken like half a pill, you were so like out of it, like you were like a zombie that you didn't even know what was going on around you. But yeah, bottom line is I was so nervous, going in front of a bunch of people to a wedding where I had to be there, that they actually had to calm me down, not the groom, but me, in order to go through with the process. So, if that means anything, I don't remember but what happened with the other situation, because I was best man for my brother John. And I don't know if I was quite that nervous then, because it wasn't around here where the wedding had taken place. The wedding was actually up in Michigan. So I was probably had jet lag, so I was too exhausted to even care about it at that point. But the bottom line is, if that makes any sense to you guys, that, for what you guys did last night, it takes a lot of courage. And that's something I don't have. Like talking on the radio or being in back of a camera or in front of the camera when I do the stuff I do, it's only me and the camera sometimes, and even when I have other people in there, it's still just me and the camera. So I have no reason to get like panicky or scared or upset. But, doing anything in front of a group of people, a large audience, I could never do that. Even a small audience, it doesn't matter. I couldn't do it. So I'm trying to say that, like, hey guys, kudos for all three of you guys for doing that, if that helps. But yeah, so that was like what I wanted to do. And the main thing was how I was basically treated like a piece of dog crap at my old job, and very much so disrespected and not treated like a human being, but like a piece of dog crap. And I think my friend Todd had some of these stories. Let's see if it's anything worth kind of looking at. But yeah, so it was like I told Paul, who made a very good guest host, I said to Paul, I said, yeah, I should make a episode called WaterGate, because that's pretty much how I feel. It feels like WaterGate, like Watergate. Now, again, I apologize because, Matt, you're going to probably say, well, you didn't really explain Watergate, but that wasn't the point. That was not the point. If you want to check up about Watergate, you can do that on your own. And, the fact that I only get like one or two listeners, I don't think me or myself or Matt, neither one of us are going to really care. So, and not that I don't care. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, why do I need to make an in-depth analysis on what happened back 50 years ago or 48 years ago when nobody's going to really care about it otherwise? So, okay, because it's after an hour already, but I just want to mention a few things since I did put them up. But there's a couple of stories I saw, that I linked from Facebook, things that I know. One was Karen Gillan, who played in Doctor Who, and also she played in Guardians of the Galaxy, is being eyed to lead Pirates of the Caribbean reboot. So that's one. Unfortunately, there's a story on a tragic news. Michael J. Fox is losing the fight against Parkinson's disease. So that's kind of like sad. That's really sad because I really like him. I'm just going through the stories I had, on my Facebook page. I put up there for a reason. Johnson & Johnson has another recall in the baby powder after traces of asbestos found. Oh, there was a story that I actually wanted to mention in case, Paul, you listened to me this week. But you were joking with me because I sent you my Lady Gaga shrine that I have in my room. I have my shrine of Lady Gaga stuff, and I did add to that now. And she's having this thing that's like every single night out in Las Vegas. And what it is that Lady Gaga is doing some performance out there. I forget what it is, but it's like every single night. And it's like, wow, if I had my old job where I was making extra cash, I would probably buy a ticket to go out to Vegas to see it. And, because it's like, again, I looked at the dates and it's like, wow, she's doing this every day. I'm trying to look for the name of the event. I should just like pull it up on the internet because it's going to be like a one solo show for 2 hours. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. Paul, I think you would appreciate that. I'm just pulling it up now. Hopefully people can still hear me. Because I wish she would take it on the road now, but she has not. She's just staying out in Vegas right now. So now they're finally at least selling some merchandise from this. Yeah, it's in Las Vegas. It's Park Theater. It's called Lady Gaga Enigma. And it's like every single night she's doing it. So that's incredible. There's actually one night she's breaking off from that. And it's called Lady Gaga Jazz and Piano, which would be really cool too. But like I'm looking at every date, like October 19th, 20th, 23rd, 25th, 26th. We'll take the 26th out. 31st, November 2nd, 3rd, 6th, 8th of November, and so on and so forth, out at the same exact place in Las Vegas. She's doing one show a night. And that's like, wow, that's incredible. Because I don't know what it is, because Paul asked me, why do you love Lady Gaga so much? I don't know. I mean, it's just because she's kind of unique, and I've gone to a couple of her concerts, many of her concerts in like for like 2 years straight, and I was never disappointed. That's the thing. I really enjoyed her shows. She puts on an incredible performance. So yeah, I mean, so that's part of the reason. So I just had to interject that real quick, and I should round up the show because I don't want it to be 2 hours. I really don't. Maybe an hour and a half, but not 2 hours. Maybe an hour and 49 minutes, but not 2 hours. So anyway, real quick, I posted a story. It says 70 miles of new wall constructed on the U.S.-Mexico border. So that's continuing to grow. So Trump is keeping his promise on that. There's a story for WaterGate. I thought it was pretty funny. Academics want sex robots capable of withdrawing consent. Even our fantasies aren't safe from the virtual police. So some story that I saw that I thought was really funny. If I could afford one at my old job, if I would have saved my money up, I could afford one of those real dolls because they're like $10,000. I can't afford that now. And trust me, it would have been really nice to have one of those. North Penn link, there's an employee arrested after stealing thousands of dollars from Tiger's Family Restaurant. So I don't know where that is, and it's around my neck of the woods. Friend sent me a story. Female therapist arrested after having sex with patient and charging him $200 per session. I should use that comment they used one time. Well, she's just too pretty to to go to jail, because they used that before. It's really a lame excuse to keep somebody out of jail. I wouldn't have that luxury where I'm just too pretty to stay out of being terminated or something. That would not work for me. There was a story my friend Todd sent me as well, and it's airline passenger. I think it's a woman too. I can't tell by the pictures. It is a woman. Wears all of her clothes to avoid paying excessive baggage fees. So, when you have to carry on an extra bag, they charge you like extra money for that. Well, she did not want to pay it. So, it's a typical millennial thing. I'm sorry to say that. If you want to bring an extra bag on to the airplane that's not going to go into, the cargo department, whatever you call it, the storage department on the plane, and it's a carry-on, they're going to charge you for it. So she didn't want to do that, so she actually had taken all the clothes and wore them not to have to pay that fee. That's really sad. Story again from my neck of the woods. That's why I wanted to kind of go through these quickly, not going into large, in-depth detail because I'll just ruin it. Monco man who raped underage girl gets new sentence report. So there is more to that. You will be able to find that if you are interested on patch.com. Now, this one story, again, I don't want to read these, but this one is actually really depressing because I love this woman. It was on, I think it's called lifelistensnews.com, but it's this woman who, she calls herself activist mommy. She's a very ultra-conservative, very pretty woman. She's got kids. And the stuff she, touches upon is really good. Well, it says now Facebook suspends activist mommy again for calling gender confusion a mental illness. So activist mommy has been, that's the name she goes by. That's her handle. She's a very pretty woman. And, again, I just listen to her because she's, really cool. But, they keep on suspending her account because she's speaking her mind. But with the Facebook police, they don't allow that. The Zuckerberg police, they don't allow that. So, there was a story also from Fox 29. Vaping-related deaths climbed to 33 as CDC continues to investigate mysterious outbreaks. On people getting sick, seriously injured from vaping. Did I mention it's vaping? Because that's what it was. Very quickly. These are all local. I believe these are pretty much all local stories. Body of a 24-year-old model found encased in concrete. Okay, this one is not. In desert after being injected with pool cleaner. That's pretty nasty story, but yeah. So that, I thought that one was from Pennsylvania, but that one wasn't. Monco man who raped another one on the Monco man. There's been a lot more car accidents around here lately. Pedestrian struck by, a car or whatever vehicle near Lansdale train station Wednesday night. That happened this week. On less gruesome stories. Boy, I'm going to really screw up this name. Paul, is it Dano? D-A-N-O. Looks like Dano. Cast as the Riddler in the Robert Patterson Batman. The Batman. It's called The Batman. This gentleman, not Paul that was on the show, but another guy with the same name, Paul, has been officially cast as the Riddler in the Robert Patterson movie called Just the Batman. Speaking about that, I just pulled it up real quick because I wanted to see there was somebody else that was supposed to play that character, and he backed out. What was I going to say? They pulled up a picture of Jared Leto as a Joker, and he has gotten the worst rap as the Joker. What do you call it? Jared Leto. And I really like Jared Leto. Nobody likes Jared Leto. I'm the only one who likes Jared Leto. What is wrong with me? Okay, Yeah, originally, I believe, because I'm looking at it now, originally who was supposed to play the character of the Riddler, I apologize for keep on screwing up that name, was supposed to be Jonah Hill, but he backed out, I believe. So then they had to quickly look for somebody else. So I don't know if that's a bad sign. Doesn't necessarily mean that it is. But either way, he backed out. So they had to quickly get somebody else to play that character. Because I don't know how much they are into, the production work of that movie. So, and you know what? I thought it was a real story, and then I looked. It's an Onion News story, and I had taken it at face value, meaning that I didn't realize it was just an Onion News story. EPA shuts down local ghost entrapment business, and it's on. It's an Onion News story. That's fake news. It's comedy news, and it was on the Ghostbusters. So I saw that and was like, "Oh wow, this is cool. Maybe it's pertaining to the new film." No, it was a joke. And I had taken it extremely seriously, like they're really talking about the Ghostbusters, in the movie, but no, it was a joke. So they are making a new Ghostbusters film. That part's true. It's going to be the original cast too, because apparently the other film did not do that well. The one with all the ladies. So anyway, yeah, this really got to me. It like kind of choked me up, but choked me up on a different story. But it's the movie being made out of Mr. Rogers, because I love Mr. Rogers, and I heard about this. I didn't see anything, but there was an official trailer up with Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers, and it blew my socks off. Because he actually not only looks like Fred Rogers, he sounds like him. And it really kind of just choked me up when I saw that. It was like, like somebody walked over your grave practically. It was like, wow, this looks really good. It's coming out for Thanksgiving. So that is posted on my Facebook page. And it's called Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is the name of the movie. That is the name of the film. And again, it's coming out on Thanksgiving. So maybe Thanksgiving Day, instead of me going early Black Friday shopping for myself, I will probably end up checking out that movie, because I think that'd be really cool. You know what? I don't know if I mentioned last time, but me and a friend, I bought tickets to 1984, which was about 2 weeks ago, something like that. We went and seen that. It was really good. It was actually really good to see a live production. So yeah, you know what? I probably should round up there, because it is. I was joking about making it an hour and a half. I thought I was only going to go over by like 10 minutes, but you know what? With me and my big mouth, I actually did go over. So anyway, folks, you know what? This is Walter from iWalter. I'm going to sign off. Now, Paul, if you listen to this, you suggested I should take some plugs that I've gotten from some celebrities. Like I did get a plug from Rob Zombie. And I got a plug from the band, Garbage, couple guys from Comic Book Men, John Carpenter, who else? There was Roberta Casada back in the day, Walt Flanagan. But he said, Paul suggested you should use those plugs at the very end of your show, as a plug. And it was like, yeah, I am going to do that, but probably not this time. The show's already long enough, and it's kind of irritating enough for most people's ears. So, speaking about Rob Zombie, I said I was going to finish, so it might be 2 hours. No, it's not. The other day they had a story, or no, not a story. They had a party on Facebook, a movie party, on Rob Zombie's, and I promise, folks, this is going to be the last thing, on Rob Zombie's movie of 3 from Hell. And I watched like the first couple minutes, but at the time when I was starting to watch the movie, because it was live on Facebook as a party watch, my dad asked me, hey, let's go over some stuff. We got to make some calls about my 401k, because now I have 2 401ks going on. Well, actually, one's now changed into a Roth investment. So I got one that's a 401k, one that's pure Roth funds or a Roth account, whatever. So it was like it had taken me away from watching the Rob Zombie film. It was like, well, I had no intentions. It just came out like, I guess, a week or so ago in the theaters. So it's already out on Blu-ray. Blu-ray, 4K, DVD. The movie of Three from Hell. And the little bit I saw on Facebook, though, was really, really good. And it was like, but I missed most of it. And it's like, well, I have all these gift cards I get from from Best Buy every time that I spend money on paying bills because I have to use my credit card to pay my bills. And then I just pay it back, pay the credit card off. So I had like $25 worth of gift cards for Best Buy. You can use it online, you can use it in the store. I used it online and I pre-ordered, and I got it on yesterday. I got it Friday because it's now Sunday now. I got the movie Three from Hell on 4K disc. And then it was like, I got home late last night after I hung out with some people from work. And I'm like watching this film. I didn't get it done until 6 in the morning because, I got home late. Then I was fooling around a little bit on the computer. And then it was like, okay, I'm going to watch this film finally. So I put it in. That movie was the worst film I've ever seen. It was horrible. Like, it started out with good intentions, and it just went like it was in quicksand. It was so bad. In fact, I said to a friend, Matt, I texted him, and I said, Matt, this movie was so bad, like, I couldn't stand the movie 31 from Rob Zombie. I thought that was god-awful, too. And there's some people who are, like, trained SEALs, and no matter what Rob Zombie puts out, like, he could put a hot pile of shit out and put whipped cream on top, and people are going to say, this is the best thing that Rob Zombie's done, had produced. And it's like, well, no, I will not say that. If it's crap, I'm going to let you know. And, 31 was god-awful. And I figured he can't make anything possibly as bad as 31. Well, he successfully had done so. I mean, this movie is horrible to the point that it's even worse. It's worse than 31, and 31 was really bad. In fact, to make things even like for insult to injury, two of the actors that were in 31, I kind of recognized them. One you couldn't help but recognize because it was a dwarf who was a Nazi dwarf clown in 31 who was now in the movie Three from Hell. I mean, so it's like, yeah, you can't even, it's like, I know a lot of people recycle their actors if they really like working with them. And of course, Rob Zombie puts Sherry Moon, which back in the day, she was really hot. She's still really cute. But, I mean, God love her, but she's not really a good actress because I looked at her profile then online. Every movie she's, been in has been a Rob Zombie film. And outside of that Rob Zombie universe, she's actually only been in 3 things, and it wasn't even like the whole film. She was just like put in there, like they put Jason Mewes in certain films just because everybody knows him through Kevin Smith, and that's happened. Like, people love Jason Mewes. Now, they won't make a whole movie out of Jason Mewes. That's Jay from, for those who don't know, Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, which goes back to Kevin Smith, which goes back to Clerks. People love Jason Mewes, but they're not stupid enough to make a whole film just on Jason Mewes. They put him in there for entertainment reasons. And it's only for a few seconds. And that's the same thing with Sherry Moon. They only put her in for a few seconds probably in these spots in these other, filmography, TV shows, whatever it was. But it's only a total of 3. So everything else she's ever acted in is Rob Zombie's stuff. So if she wasn't married to Rob Zombie, nobody would ever hear about Sherry Moon ever. And I mean, the worst part was she's starting to show her age in her face. Like body-wise and from distance-wise, she looks really hot. When you get a close-up shot of her face, it's like she's not passing off as being the cutesy, hot-looking, young, blonde-haired California girl any longer. That's long gone. So that's a problem. And yeah, I'm going over. It's going to be a 2-hour show probably. I hope not. So that being said, that was a disappointment too. The only thing that was entertaining out of the whole thing of watching that movie, I was telling myself after a good half hour of watching 3 from Hell is please let this movie be over. Please let it be over. This is the worst freaking film I've ever seen. This is awful. And I'm like literally saying this out loud because it was garbage. And the only thing that was entertaining, and I told this to Matt. I left this in a voice text to Matt and Ed Rick. I'm throwing plugs out there. That they seem to find like these actresses that back in the day they were extremely hot. The girl who played in Three's Company, she played Priscilla Barnes. They had her in a movie. She played in Three's Company towards the end, and she was really hot on that show. She was better looking, I think, than Suzanne Summers. Karen Black, who was really hot when she was younger, and a couple other actresses that were really hot. But by the time they get to the point that they got to act in a Rob Zombie film, they look like their skin looks like shoe leather, and their bodies just look horrendous. In fact, they look like witches, like Death Row one over top of them. So I don't know if it's Rob that does that to these poor women or what, but they look like total shit. They look horrible. It will turn any millennial man limp for life. It'll turn it into a turtle, if you get my drift, on their private parts, because these women look like beyond scary. And unfortunately, Sherry Moon's slowly heading in that direction, I hate to say. And I love Sherry Moon. I always thought she was like super hot. That level has dropped down to kind of cute. And when you get a good shot of her face, it turns down to like a +1 from a scale from 0 to 10. So that's not too good. So anyway, the most amusing part in this film was they got some actress who was probably hot back in the day who is really hideous looking now, like pretty bad. And obviously it was an actress who had some breast augmentation done. So there's this scene, and he tries to be politically correct. It's kind of funny. It's like, dude, you're just going out on a limb that probably you knew this film was really bad. So now you've got to go one step further and you got to add political correctness to it. So he did. And that was wrong because the movie was just god-awful. And it's another one of these films that Rob did or, put together that was another exploitation-looking film that looked like it came out of the 70s, but he did say it was supposed to be like, I guess, the 90s. It's like, well, there's a big difference what people look like in the 90s and what they look like in the 70s with the pork chop sideburns and the bar handle mustaches. Like, come on, dude. You got to let that stuff go. You literally got to let that stuff go. And Matt did say this, and I will say this too. Like, Rob Zombie he's a genius. He's very smart. He's got incredible taste on great classic horror films, but he can't transcribe what he sees into something that has any substance into what he makes. Like, I added all that word into this thing. Matt said something like a lot less and a bit different. So anyway, there's this scene that he just tries to have some shock value where this warden of the jail who had arrested and, life imprisonment with one of the characters, the one Sherry Moon played. That, oh, by the way, Sherry Moon's nickname was also the character's name in House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Reject, and now Three from Hell. So the bottom line is they didn't try to make up like fictional names that don't fit that actor. No, they made up fictional names that are actually nicknames of that actress, meaning that probably she couldn't remember her lines otherwise, so they gave her a name that she could understand. They didn't like, okay, my name is, for example, Walter, but my nickname is Woody. So it'd be like me making a character, and the fact that I can't remember things, well, you know what? We're going to make your character's name Woody. So that's a far stretch from what they really call you. Well, guess what? No, it isn't. So the bottom line is they try to simplify her role so she wouldn't forget what she needed to do. I mean, it was kind of obvious. So that was really bad. And I hate to pick on Sherry Moon like that, because again, I had a Love Jones for her for many years. I thought she was really hot. And the thing I respect about her, she's never got any, had any breast augmentation or anything like that, because she's a little bit on the flat side on the chest. And I respect that because she's all natural. So I like that, the fact that she hasn't caved in, at least with that. And they have enough money. Rob and stuff has enough money that if she wanted to get breast implants, she could, but she's not going to ruin her appearance. And I'm glad she's at least smart in that way. I mean, she hasn't changed anything, besides, bottled bleached blonde hair. That's the only thing that's different, that's not real on her. Everything else is 100% natural. And I tip my hat on her on that. But going back to Three from Hell, there's this scene where this woman supposedly is forced to be repeatedly raped, and she has to strip down to her birthday suit. So, bottom line, they kind of give the insinuation this woman is being repeatedly raped and tortured, and then she escapes before getting killed out of this house from the Three from Hell. But when she runs away, I try to keep, as bad as the movie was and as much as I thought it was horrible, was seeing her run down a neighborhood street with no clothes on, completely nude, and her implants just bouncing all around. Now, they weren't like those ridiculous, those really large breast implants that some of these celebrities get that they're so big that they literally look like weather balloons in their chest. It wasn't like that. No, they were, I would say, like a full B or C cup, but they were definitely implants because they were round, and like you got this woman who's aging, getting older looking. She's starting to show that she's starting to get older looking, and she's got these two round breasts, like are perfectly round. And she's like running down the street, and these things are just bouncing up and down, like as she's running. Like they weren't big enough that they would smack her in the face, but they were big enough that they were like bouncing balls in her chest. And I'm like trying to keep from laughing. It's like, this looks really bad. This looks it's bad, but it's funny. It was hilarious. So that part was the only redeeming quality of the whole film. And one thing I will say, and I've said this in the past, and I'm going to stick with this, the only movie that I really, really enjoyed from Rob Zombie is Lords of Salem. And that was, everything was circling around like all the films do, around his wife, Sherry Moon Zombie. But that film actually was really good. I liked it. In fact, that's the only movie I can say that I had seen of Rob Zombie, because I hated those Halloween movies 1 and 2 that he did. Those were awful too. And obviously, Sherry Moon was in there. But Lords of Salem actually scared the crap out of me. That movie was disturbingly scary. I can't say it about anything else. So I said I was going to end the show like 30 minutes ago. So it is going to be almost 2 hours. So I apologize about that. And Paul, I also apologize to you because I don't want to put, at least this week until I get to a more sensible time limit, put any plugs in. But if you go to my Spreaker page, that's where all my material is. I have a lot of material for like at least 7 years, 6 years, whatever it is. And if you go back in my history, you will see the celebrities that I had do plugs for my show, which was also Kevin Sorbo I had as well. A guy who played in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV series. The actor who played, I was going to say Slander, but it's Xander. He played the character Xander, the guy who's constantly finding himself in jail. He gave me a plug. So I got a bunch of people promoting my show for me. So I paid for it. Trust me. They're not going to do that if I don't give them money. I wouldn't do a plug for my show unless I gave myself money. That's how bad I am. So everyone, have a good night. It's iWalter, and I'm signing off for now.
This is Rob Zombie. You listen to iWalter. I haven't heard it yet, but maybe it's good.